This is from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, famous passage. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It doesn't boast. It is not proud. It doesn't dishonor others. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. It's amazing at weddings and funerals how there are certain passages of Scripture which have sort of become locked in as standard. And one of the things I find fascinating about that is that this passage, about love in 1 Corinthians 13, is almost always associated with weddings. How many of you have heard this read at a wedding? Most of you. The ironic part about that is, if you notice that it's 1 Corinthians chapter 13, most people don't take time to read all 12 chapters that lead up to this passage. And the funny thing is that if you did take the time to read 1 Corinthians chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, what you would understand is that Paul is being cheeky. He's basically saying to the Corinthians, love is everything I just chewed you out for not doing for 12 chapters. Love is all the stuff you're not doing. That's the tone. We never read it in that tone. It wouldn't really fit at a wedding because we're very sentimental, when it comes to that stuff. But we do this actually all the time. Like, for instance, Psalm 23, most people know that almost exclusively in association with funerals, right? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And the reason they know that it goes with funerals is because it has the word death in it. But if you actually take time to read Psalm 23, what you will quickly figure out is that is not a psalm for the dead. That is a psalm for the living. Because yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. That's for people who are walking. We do this with 1 Corinthians at weddings. We do it with Psalm 23. And so I thought it would be fitting today, Advent 4, where the theme is love, to sort of wrangle that away from weddings and bring it into Christmas and look at it through a slightly different light. So we're going to leave that there for a second, and I want to introduce you to something almost entirely different. I'm fascinated with homophones. Let me say that again, homophones. Those are words that sound similar but mean very different things. In fact, I found a book called Homophones Illustrated, and I want to show you some of them. So these are words that sound very similar but mean different things. By, some of you have been doing that. This is the book that I'm quoting out of. It's by this guy. And then at the end we'll say bye, right? That's an example. I'm going to show you a couple more. Click, like a pen. And click, like high school. Next, a hall, and then what hopefully some of you are going to do in the next 24 hours in a hall, all right? Lesson and a lesson. We'll keep going. There's a couple more. To cite something, you have sight, and then there's the sight, right? I love these things. I'm fascinated with homophones. There's a bough, like a bough of holly, and then there's to bow, right? Like the three kings at the manger. In fact, in the front of my journal, every year I do a new journal, I keep track of homophones I find. Here's half, this is just half of the homophones that I have found this year alone. To root and to root. Heel and a heel, like your foot. Bread and bread. To pray and to pray, wait and wait, soul and the sole of your foot, dear and dear, pull and pull like the North Pole, roll and to roll, steal, like the metal, and to steal, like to take something, loan, and like a loan, and then read and read. I love these things. I am fascinated with words that sound similar. By the way, it's one of the reasons I respect people who do English as second language so much. English is a really tricky language to learn if that's not your original, your first language. I respect people who do English as second language immensely. But when it comes to love, which is our theme for today, we actually have the opposite problem as the homophone, which is words that sound similar but mean different things. We actually do the opposite with love. We have this one word and we mean it for so many different things. I love your shirt. I love that song. I love being here with you all. I love my wife. When people ask me how I'm enjoying Idaho, I just tell them, Idaho is McDonald's. I'm loving it. Ba 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 ba. No, I don't do that. I just wanted to say that this morning. It was a little Pete Holmes humor. We use love for so many different things that we have the opposite kind of confusion. Unlike the homophone, which sounds similar but means different things, we use this one word and we lay it on top of so many different things that we're in danger of stripping it of its nutrients, of diluting it to the point that it doesn't mean much of anything. So earlier this fall, we were doing Old Words for a New Way. That was our series. And one of our words was love. And we talked about Greek words. And in the Bible, there are 5 Greek words, but in sort of history, we know that there were 6 Greek words for love. And I'm just going to tell you about 3 of them because I think that they help us this morning. If we took just these 3 words, Philadelphia, like brotherly love, so philia, agape, which is sort of the corporate love of, say, a group like this that loves God, has experienced that love, so an agape, and eros, which is like erotic love. If we had just those 3 imported from Greek, right? We don't even mess with storge or any of the others. We just have these 3, but we were careful to use them appropriately. Love for your fellow human, right? Philia. Agape, which is sort of this divine conception of love. And then erotic love. If we were careful to distinguish those 3, just that little distinction would help us so much. It would bear so much fruit if we just paid attention to those 3 kinds of love and were careful to not cross-pollinate them in our language. So the question for me is love an emergent reality? So for those of you who don't know about emergence theory, think of a beehive. When bees make a hive, there's no master plan except to fill up this area with the comb, right? That's the master plan. There's no one in charge. There's no engineers that have drawn up a blueprint, right? It's not a top-down construction. A beehive is a bottom-up construction. As the bees begin to make it, they fill in comb by comb, right, hexagon by hexagon, and they fill up this space. Beehives are an emergent reality. There's no master plan, there's no blueprint, there's no one in charge at the top. It is teamwork until it's done, and then you see what you've done. And I sort of think that love is the same kind of thing. Love, there's no blueprint for it. Does anyone want to say amen to that? I think it's a really good point. There's no blueprint for love. Oh, thank you. I didn't know if anyone would go with me there. There's no blueprint per se for every relationship and what love looks like in that relationship in every phase and season of life. It's an emergent reality. Or like being a part of a loving congregation, right? Through the decades, that looks very different. As people come and go, as life changes, as the needs of the community change, what it looks like to love one another is an emergent reality. We find out what it means as we do it. as we are loving, we find out what love is. It's sort of a journey of self-discovery, right? This is an emergent reality. And I love that picture of love. But at Christmas, I have to take the time to put an asterisk and say, yes, but. If you're a person of faith or claim to follow Jesus or claim to believe in God or something like that, at Christmas, there's this extra thing where we say, love isn't just what you and I experience between each other. There is a divine source of love, a fountain from below or a gift from above, however you want to talk about it. But there is a divine source of love. It's why, if I can just say, that love is one of those rare things that the more you give it away, the more you have. The reason that's true is because it has a divine source that you can't outgive. Love is one of those incredible categories of human experience where you cannot, by giving it away, you don't have less of it. You have more of it. And that's an argument that says there must be some source of this, that it multiplies, it doesn't subtract. Love multiplies. If you give away, if you love, you don't have less love, you have more love. That's why I think there's a divine source of it. So, at Christmas, we have this awesome word picture metaphor, which is that every time it's time to decorate for Christmas, we go out into the garage and we bring in our boxes and our Tupperware bins and we open them up and we sort of see what we have and we lay them all out and we decorate and everything looks great for about a month, and for some of you longer than a month. No judgment, I'm not looking at anybody in particular. And then we put it all away, we pack it back up, and we store it, right? So I was watching a video this week, and I haven't heard somebody use the word trousers in a long time. It sort of caught me off guard. They said, these are my favorite trousers. And I was like, what? I haven't heard that word in so long. So I started thinking oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of words that because we call them pants, but I remember growing up, they were slacks. How many of you remember slacks? Right? And I was like, oh, that's so funny, how language changes and how, do any of you have trousers on today, by the way? I'm just curious. Anybody here wearing trousers? No? Okay. One person. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, it's sort of an interesting word, but what it got me thinking about is, you know that on some pants that are a little fancier, there's a fold, right? There's a crease. Does anybody remember what it's called? You can iron it. A pleat. Thank you. That root word, the pleat, is a fascinating root word, and it shows up in some really interesting places. For instance, complicate, the pleat, the complete, complicate, is to fold something up. To explicate, there's a pleat in there. To explicate is to unfold something. And I think this is one of the reasons I'm so happy. Because every Advent, we get assigned these 4 themes that we're going to talk about. And one of the things I truly love is that every Christmas, we get to unfold these 4 topics and then fold them back up and put them away. But in the middle, we get to examine them. We get to wrestle with them. We get to evaluate them. They rub off on us. And so it is a folding and an unfolding of love. We get to examine it and experience it. And I just enjoy the way that Advent is laid out, so that when we go through our themes, I know that every year at this time, we get to talk about love. And for me, it's like dragging out the Christmas boxes and the Tupperware bins and popping the lids off to see, does this look different than it did last year? Has anything changed in a year? Where do I want to hang this? And how do I show this off? And do I want to make any changes? Is there anything that's a little outdated and I need to let it go? Have I acquired anything new that needs to go in? And it's in this folding and unfolding. Every year as we talk about love, that we get to say the exact same sort of thing, which is, do I love more than I did last year? Have I learned anything about love this year? Is love calling me to anything in this coming year? So as the youth come and prepare to play for us so that we can reflect and experience this love, I want to give you a minute to sit with this idea that if we just attended to brotherly love, right, or sisterly love, this Philadelphia, and we privileged agape in some sense, or this what we experience in community, this divine love, which we believe has an external source that we can't run out of. And then erotic love. If we attended to these three, would we be better off as a community and as a society? And every year on this Sunday, we get to unfold the topic of love and take a look at it before we fold it up and put it away for another year. So I'm going to let you sit with that just for a second, and then when it's time, the youth will play for us.